the Red Wings Roundtable for the hockey writers. For the past 5 years, the Grindline has been a weekly column for the hockey writers. Now we're coming to you live. We're excited for another opportunity to discuss the latest Red Wings news, rumors, and strategy with the Hockeytown faithful. And before we dive in, let's say hi to the crew here. Ian, how's it going, bud?
I'm good, Tony. How are you doing?
Doing great. Enjoying Movember over here.
Yeah, it sure looks like it.
Devin, what's new with you?
Not much, just, getting more content out there.
Good deal. And Pat, Mr. Pat Peach Fuzz Brown, what's going on?
Yeah, Movember and I take an entire month to get acquainted. What can I say? It takes a whole month.
I mean, I'm the same way. I've been growing this for a while and just had to shave the beard off. All right, so let's dive in, guys. What do you say? So first up, the Red Wings have had a pretty solid offseason. They added a bunch of new players, Bobby Ryan, Vladimir Nemesnikov, a couple defensemen, and Troy Stetcher and John Merrill, and of course Thomas Greiss and net. Yzerman has definitely been cleaning up in his second offseason as GM. The question is, though, are there any more moves coming? I think we've been waiting on a Tyler Johnson trade for a while. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe it won't. I think Devin will touch on that in a little bit. But just wanted to, I'll first pass it off to Ian. What do you think's going to happen before the season starts? Do you think Yzerman's going to add another player or two? Or do you think we have the 2020-2021 roster at this point?
I think for the most part, the roster we have now is going to be the roster for opening night, whenever that is. But it's fascinating if you look at the remaining free agents available for teams to pick up, like just the first names, like Anthony Duclair is still available, Sammy Vatanen is still available. I think Mike Hoffman is still available too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I'd love to see Detroit go make a run, even if it's just a 1 year or 2 year deal with those guys. But I think for the most part, the roster we have now is going to be intact on opening night.
Good deal. Devin, I'll pass it over to you next.
So I think the cool thing about Yzerman's moves so far this offseason is that the Red Wings have options now, not just in how their lineup looks, but also in that they have the depth, if you want to call it that, to potentially bring in a guy like Tyler Johnson. I wrote about this, I believe it was last week. And if you're getting a guy like Tyler Johnson, I guess we backtrack. If the Red Wings are going to make another move, I think it's going to be another one of those Mark Stahl-esque moves where you're bringing in salary to also add a draft pick or a prospect or some sort of future asset. And that's where like Tyler Johnson would fit, because as a lot of people know, Tampa Bay is in quite the crunch right now with their salary cap. And Yzerman was the general manager for 8 years, I believe it was. And I think that there's kind of a logical connection you can make between the two teams. And I think it would behoove Tampa Bay to look at moving like a first round pick or maybe even multiple seconds to move out a guy like Tyler Johnson. And the cool thing is that it would definitely beef up the Red Wings lineup in multiple ways.
Yeah, and before passing over to Pat, real quick, last I checked, Tampa Bay still needs to sign Anthony Cirelli. They still need to sign a few of their key restricted free agents, and they're right up against the cap. So something's got to give. Yep. They don't have any money to spend, and they have to be compliant once the season starts. And I think what we'll probably see is this getting dragged out as long as they can. If the season gets delayed and doesn't start till February, it gives Julian Breezewell more time to make some moves. But you're right, something's going to happen eventually, and it would be in Yzerman's best interest to see what exactly Tampa Bay is looking for and what they're trying to do. So yeah, Pat, I'll pass it over to you before I wrap up.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think we're seeing a lot of those free agents still on the market because of the uncertainty of the season. I think that there's a lot of teams that aren't sure necessarily what direction to go, what the salary cap is going to look like in the future, how this pandemic has affected things. Now, as for the Red Wings, I agree with Ian in that I don't really think there's much to be done. You've gone out, you've made the moves that are safe. They're good team contracts, short term, low risk. You have just a plethora of talent in the pipeline coming up, playing overseas and everything else, which we'll touch on in a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to see TJ in the wing wheel, but I just don't know if that's in the cards. I think that they've got their team moving forward, though. I will throw out a hot take, or is it too early? Patrick Laine.
Wow.
Tyler Bertuzzi and prospects for Patrick Laine, both restricted free agents at the end of the season. The Red Wings are going to have money to burn to start next year and give him a hefty raise. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw a hot take out there 7 minutes into the program and say I'd be first in line to buy a sweater.
Gonna let that simmer for a little bit.
Yeah.
Ian, I usually come to you for hot takes. I'm gonna have to. I need to hear what you need to say.
Patrick's just stealing my thunder here, and I like it.
You just wait till Ian and I team up on a hot take. That'll be great.
Oh boy!
Watch out, Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless.
Yeah.
All right. To wrap up, though, it's interesting. During Yzerman's, I guess we'll call it a press conference, him sitting in his turtleneck in his office. Actually, we'll need to discuss that another time. Yzerman's turtleneck and hoodie combo. I think this is the future, but
elite.
We'll come back to that. Definitely elite fashion. During his presser after after his latest signings of Nemesnikov and Stetcher, he said, looking at maybe one, maybe two more deals, but closer to training camp. And I thought that was pretty interesting because the roster seemingly is set, and he could have been alluding to signing Anthony Mantha and Tyler Bertuzzi at that point. That said, when Jeff Blashill had a recent Q&A with The Athletic, I believe, he mentioned that he's not expecting anything to change before training camp, and that the roster's set. So Yzerman did seem to backtrack that a little bit during an interview with NHL Network this week. Mentioned that roster's in good shape. He's proud of the offseason, is feeling good about the team. A little bit of mixed messages between the different interviews, but then again, nothing's ever been. The tea leaves are kind of difficult to read with Yzerman as far as future moves go. So it's entirely possible. Devin, go ahead.
I think that what's really good is that given that so many of the Red Wings prospects are playing overseas right now, and they're gonna be there until their season ends. We don't know what the season's gonna look like exactly in the NHL, but I think there's reason to believe that it's gonna line up fairly well to where once the Red Wings do shed some of these players that we know they're gonna shed once the opportunity comes, those players overseas are going to come in and more or less immediately fill in those spots. If they move out a defender like John Merrill at the deadline, Moritz Seider is going to slide right in there. And there's more players that fit that exact description. So I don't know. They don't need to do anything. I think that they definitely have the room to do it. But that is the beauty of this offseason, is that Yzerman's given himself the option to do nothing now.
Yeah, and one more note before we go back to prospects. The Red Wings still need to sign Dimitro Timashoff, and last I heard, he was weighing a couple different offers. I assume the other offers being to go play overseas, maybe in the KHL, maybe in Sweden, and get some more ice time than he would in Detroit. So that's just something to monitor moving forward. But didn't seem to be a whole lot of traction. Last time there was news on it, but. Speaking of prospects, it seems like every single day, if you look on Twitter, there is a new highlight from one of Detroit's prospects, whether it's Jonathan Bergeron, whether it's Lucas Raymond, Philip Zadina. the list goes on. So, during Monday's the grind line column that we had, we each picked our top prospect playing overseas, and I think all of us chose different players. And I wanted to just go around now that we've had another week to see highlights come through, watch some games, see how everyone's performing. Are we still comfortable with our picks, or is there a new prospect that we need to be paying more attention to? Ian, you want to jump on this one first?
Sure. And I mean, you're totally right with my Twitter feed just getting filled with Red Wings highlights every single day. I'm not complaining. It's not a complaint. It's just something I notice. There's so many. I don't know which one to start. I mean, Seider's obviously having a really good season in Sweden. Lucas Raymond, even Theodor Niederbach in the junior league in Sweden. Take your choice. Really, when it comes to Detroit prospects overseas, I'm going to say Niederbach just because he has a really cool name. But really, it doesn't matter. There's so many good prospects. You could convince me anybody on any given day. You have to watch out for this guy. You have to watch out for this guy.
Yeah, and Niederbach is up to 7 games now with Frölunda's top team. The J20 National they paused their games due to COVID, so it's nice to see him getting more than a few seconds in Frölunda's top team in the SHL. One other quick prospect note before I pass it off to Devin. Jonathan Bergeron, tearing it up. Been just a force to be reckoned with on the ice. But he actually just got suspended for 3 games for being a force to be reckoned with and cross-checking someone in the face. So we'll be on a bit of a delay for seeing some of his highlights, but not to worry. There's plenty from Lucas Raymond, Otto Kimmimaki, Moritz Seider, and the rest of the bunch. And Devin,
can I just?
go ahead.
I was gonna say, can I just that was really surprising seeing this a suspension in my Twitter feed today, where it's you're used to the goals and the assists, and then it's oh, he's getting a suspension. What? This is so unusual. How odd. But I had to laugh a little bit.
It reminded me almost of this was a few years ago when Gus Nyquist just turned around and slashed someone in the face. It's you would not expect Bergeron to cross-check someone in the face, but he did. It didn't look. I mean, I'm sure it hurt. It didn't look like I've seen some bad cross-checks.
Yeah.
It looked like he was just trying to raise a stick over his head and caught him, and it sucks, and he's suspended. But it wasn't nearly as bad as Nyquist slashing a Minnesota Wild player in the face. So, yeah,
it definitely didn't look malicious.
No. Do you want to?
Yeah. So awkward silence. We love that. So in the article that you referenced, I did throw out Bergeron as my pick for the most exciting, at least, or surprising prospect over there. And I'm gonna stick with it, even though he got a little stick happy. But the thing is with me is that he had kind of fallen off my radar over the last year, just because of the fact he'd been sidelined by injuries so often since he got picked in 2018. And so even though he was back to full health this year, I was kind of expecting him to have some rust and not really, get off to that blazing start that he did. But he did. He's killing it. And he's killing players now too, so that's cool. But he looks every bit the part that you would need to look to be the 33rd pick in a draft. He looks like he's got great instincts in the offensive zone. He's got that ability to break through defenders. He's just exciting because, like I said, he was kind of off the radar. Now he's back on the radar in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. Pat?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Lucas Raymond, that's who I wrote about. The kid, just doing some great things, 5 goals, 6 assists in 18 games with the big boys. And when you put it in perspective, and you realize that he's playing in the top league in Sweden and doing the things that he's doing, sharing the puck, scoring goals, creating plays. He can't be anointed just yet as the next great one, obviously, but you cannot discount what he has done. And hopefully he keeps it up. Everybody goes through little growing pains. Everybody goes through sophomore slumps. Obviously, there's no guarantee that this is going to transfer over to the NHL level, but what more can you ask for out of a 19-year-old kid over there among men? Although he probably already grows more facial hair than I do, but that's a conversation for another time. I don't know what more you can ask for, and I've been really impressed with what he's done and very optimistic about his future.
Good deal. Yeah. And, from my perspective, I'll throw out Moritz Seider as the player I've been most impressed with so far. It seems every level he plays in, he just goes above and beyond, right? So from World Juniors with Germany, playing in the German men's league, playing in the AHL, playing, overseas in the SHL, you think at some point, like, he might be in it over his head a little bit, like, let's pump the brakes, but no, he keeps excelling. He, has been playing, high impact minutes, over in Sweden, putting up about a point a game. What I think is, impressive is his physical game hasn't stopped. Like, playing in the SHL, there's more space, there's a little bit more speed. It's a little bit more of a finesse game than a dump and chase game that is played in North America here. And he has not let up with the physicality. He even bodied Joe Veleno after he tried to dump the puck in past them. So I've been impressed. Like, he's been a force to be reckoned with at both ends of the ice, and just showing once again that he can compete against high quality players and deserves to be in the Red Wings lineup as soon as the SHL season is over. So while we're on the topic of top prospects, Devin put together an Untouchable Prospects article earlier this week and also produced a bit of a hot take, and that was Filip Zadina being, well, if the right offer came along, we consider such a deal. So not quite untouchable. I wanted to, get your opinion on that, Devin.
All right. So I want to start by saying that I'm a huge Filip Zadina fan. By no means am I saying I want him kicked off the team. I would rather him be the stud winger that everyone expects him to be. However, as I kind of said in the article, the further you get from the draft that you're picked in, the more you need to start seeing that production and expectations start to really come into play. We're 2 years out now from the draft, a little over now. Zadina has shown a lot of promise. His play this past season in the 20 plus games he played this past season, he looked really good. He was making plays, whereas before he was forcing plays. He was still willing to use his shot. But did he look like that dominant, first line can take a game over player? Not quite. And a lot of people, especially within the fandom, are going to quickly point to the player that was picked right after him, which is Quinn Hughes. And Quinn Hughes, yeah, exactly. But Quinn Hughes has become that defenseman that can take over a game and can log north of 20 minutes for Vancouver. So for Zadina to just now be like, all right, he's gonna have a roster spot. I think it's safe to say he's kind of fallen a little bit short of expectations. And so I think that if Zadina was the piece that was needed to land an even better piece, right? I think Yzerman would look at it. Yzerman wasn't the one who drafted Zadina, so I don't think he has as much of that attachment to him. I think he still believes in Zadina and wants him to be part of the future. But like I said, if the right offer came along, I don't think there would be that hesitation that there would have been even a year ago.
Oh, Ian, you have some more hot takes. You're slow to the draw today. You got Pat first, then Devin. waiting on you over here.
I mean, I think there's only like a few guys in this league who are actually really, really untouchable, like who you are not going to get off any team regardless of whatever offer you make. That being said, it's, like Devin says, we're not going to be shipping off Zadina tomorrow. Like Sider's not going to be gone tomorrow. Lucas Raymond, like they're not trading these guys. It's just if the right offer came along, I'm sure Yzerman would at least consider it. Might not do it, but at least consider it. But I don't know if there's any sort of untouchable prospect per se. It's just there's a lot of guys who you're like, no, you're not trading Sider, right? You're not trading Raymond. You're not trading Zadina. Those are the three guys that pop into my head right away. But that's who I would consider untouchable, if you want to use that term.
Would you consider Joe Veleno untouchable?
Again, kind of in that same category of just like if the right offer came along. Like I think Veleno's a little bit more expendable than the other three guys I mentioned, just like a little bit, but yeah, he's kind of along those same lines.
The thing with Veleno for me is that Rasmussen and Niederbach are all kind of projected to be more or less the same player. Obviously, Rasmussen and Joe Veleno are not the same player, but they both kind of cap out as middle six centers. And if you have so many of the same prospects, sooner or later something's got to give. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Veleno.
For my part, Veleno is not in the untouchable category, but he's not going anywhere. You've got to give him. He's shown some really good things. You're going to give him more time to develop, and unless it's an unbelievable deal that nobody can even fathom, there's no way Veleno is going anywhere. I would part with Zadina before Veleno. I think Zadina's had some looks. Not a lot of looks in the NHL, but I don't know. Left me wanting more with what he said after he was drafted, which was he was going to fill the back of the net with pucks, and left me wanting more. Neither one of those two do I think are going anywhere anytime soon. And I like how we all kind of put that disclaimer out there, but I would entertain a deal with Zadina before Veleno. And I agree wholeheartedly. Obviously, Sider and Raymond, they are untouchable at this point.
I just want to add, it's kind of like the Maple Leafs to a certain extent, where you have so many good players coming through your system, and then you have so many good players who are going to be on your roster that it gets to a point where if you have the same player coming through, you just are kind of this same team. You don't really surprise teams. Like people know what they're going up against with, say, maybe not quite the Leafs now this upcoming season, but if you have the same player, teams kind of know what to expect when they're going up against you. So maybe they'll move somebody in the near future for some other need that comes up, say defense or goaltending down the line. But yeah.
Yep. I'm on the same page as you guys, though I will say that I do appreciate what Filip Zadina does, and I do think he's untouchable. So keep up the good work, buddy. We're rooting for you. But I do think we're all on the same page, is that teams need to diversify their assets. The Red Wings have a good stockpile of, top four defensemen. Moritz Seider is probably a top tier defenseman. And Devin made a good point that, Michael Rasmussen, Joe Veleno, and Theodor Niederbach are all more or less middle six centers. All three can also play a bit of the wing as well, so there's some flexibility there. But if the Red Wings want to move a defensive prospect, like I won't even throw names out, but like if they want to move a defensive prospect or a forward prospect to add to their goaltending pipeline, since we're not exactly sure if there's a goalie of the future yet. Everyone's still up in the air about whether or not they're going to pan out. That would be a great use of the prospect pipeline and diversifying your assets there.
You want to be able to deal from a position of strength. So
exactly.
for them to accumulate that many middle six centers or top four defensemen, sooner or later it's going to come in handy.
Yeah,
And
it's either
it's been a long time since we've had that luxury.
Exactly.
Which is nice to have.
Yeah, and it'll either come in handy when these players are, moving up to the NHL, or that the Red Wings need to, add depth elsewhere, or it'll come in handy when the Red Wings are contending for a playoff spot in a few years and they need to add a final piece of the deadline. We hope they don't trade any, good prospects and revert to those old ways, but we'll see what happens. So moving off of prospects. Pat, you have 2 jerseys behind you, and you had some takes on the Red Wings reverse retro jersey. So I'll throw it back to you for your latest on that.
Yeah, I have to say, I aired in our Grindline article earlier this week when I said I was all for the reverse retro jerseys, because let me tell you, I was all for the reverse retro jerseys. And then they released them. And what I have over my shoulder here, that is a reverse retro jersey that I could get behind. But the glorified practice jersey that Adidas and the NHL put out for the Red Wings really left me scratching my head. It really felt to me like whoever was assigned to do this just blew it off. And 30 minutes before, they grabbed the old white sweater, left the logo on, said, oh, that looks like the 97, 98 teams that repeated. That's great. Replaced the red with the gray, looked for one of the old jerseys that had gray in it. Boom, there's a reverse retro jersey. There's some really cool ones out there. And Tony, I know you were really concerned about before they released them, what it was going to look like. I was excited for a little color, a little variety. And needless to say, it really left me disappointed with what the Red Wings released.
Yeah, so you're right. I was a little concerned because I do think the brand equity that the Red Wings have established is it's like the Yankees like deciding, not really a big fan of pinstripes anymore. Let's do some bright baby blue. Let's do that. No, it doesn't work. And I was really hoping that the Red Wings wouldn't do anything too drastic, and they didn't. What they ended up doing was taking their red jersey from the 98 season, inversing the colors, and then swapping out the new red areas with silver. That's pretty much what it is. What I would have liked to see, since it is a throwback to the 98 team, and I thought it would have been a great touch with the fan base, is putting the Vladdy and Sergei Monastikhanov Believe patch on the jersey. Yep. I think that would have been like the chef's kiss, perfect touch to the jersey. It would have gone from an F to an A+. But that didn't happen. You can probably order that patch online somewhere. Someone could probably fabricate it for you and you could sew it on. But, I agree that it's tough. I guess from my perspective, it's like, I don't think they should have even participated in this. They could have just worn the red jersey as they always have, because that was a retro jersey from back in the day. It's the same thing. I don't know. Ian, Devin, do you have any other takes on this?
I was just going to say that, I try and upsell the jersey a little bit. It's not gray. It is silver. It's not gray. It's silver. That it's a metallic color. That looks a little bit better. But no, it's definitely
which was inspired by a new jersey, the Centennial one, which is hilarious. But
yeah, no, it was under. I think Pat had the feeling of every Red Wings fan, where they were all excited. This was going to be a great jersey. We're all going to pay $200 for it, and then it came out. It's like, why would I buy this?
It looks so much like those training camp practice jerseys. So much like it, it's a little crazy. But Tony, with the patch, which by the way, I have a patch, crazy piece of trivia there, but I have a Believe patch. I like your idea there, because even if you don't like it, you can't knock it at that point if it's got that patch on there.
Yeah, sure. Exactly.
I I just want to say that Pat also knocked it out of the park by saying the jersey over his shoulder would have been a good reverse retro. The jersey that they used at the Winter Classic at Wrigley Field, that would have been a good reverse retro. What the problem was is that they already did it for another event. So the cool thing about the Red Wings is, as Tony kind of already said, they've kind of had that iconic look forever. They've never really budged too much from it. But the bad thing is that when you're trying to come up with these crazy ideas on how to reinvent the brand, you don't have a lot to pick from. So when you've already kind of used it for this Winter Classic and then this Winter Classic, you're already kind of out of options. And so we get what we got.
Did they say how many
Or go
times they're going to wear?
Cougars.
Well, I was going to say, did they say how many times they're going to wear the reverse retro this upcoming season? Because hopefully it's very little. Like, hopefully it's like as little as possible.
Yeah.
Didn't see
I don't
the exact amount. They did. That wasn't in the press release. It did say that whoever they're playing, the selected rivals, it's already been determined. So I actually thought maybe, do you remember the NFL Color Rush fiasco a few years back?
It was a disaster.
And I actually kind of thought, I wonder if it was planned out that they're going to be playing against rivals who have brightly colored jerseys. So it's literally intentional to kind of neutralize that. But I'm not giving them the benefit of that doubt. There were so many other options. You could have done, the old Cougars sweaters or the white Detroit with the lines. There were so many options. It fell flat. Sorry, I'm off my soapbox now. Thanks for letting me get that out.
I think the one benefit there, and this is just my own personal preference. I prefer when the Red Wings wear white jerseys at home like they used to. So if they're wearing these reverse retro jerseys at home, they're wearing their white jersey at home. So I'm okay with that. So just to wrap up this topic here, we'll just do a quick rapid fire. Which team had the best reverse retro jersey? I'll go first. Anaheim Ducks. I love that jersey. The cartoon jersey. You can knock it all you want. Their jersey is fantastic.
Wild Wing.
Yep. Devin?
Washington Capitals. It's got the colors from today and the past, and it's got the iconic jersey that Ovi wore when he did the spin move. That's a great jersey.
Yep. And when the Red Wings beat the Caps in the 98
Yep.
playoffs.
Yep.
Bring it all together. Ian, how about you?
My favorite is the Caps, like Devin, but I think the best one is the LA Kings. I think the Kings had, and we're hitting with California, but they knocked it out of the park with the LA Kings reverse retro. No question.
Definitely a big fan of the yellow purple combo with the Gretzky era LA Kings logo. That was a great combination of the two design elements there. So Pat, how about you?
My favorite was the Arizona Coyotes, actually taking the old Kachina jerseys and incorporating that purple. I think it pops. I think it looks sharp. But I think the best, and it pains me to say this, but I think the best is the Avalanche, incorporating the Nordiques logo with the Colorado colors. And you guys know how hard that is for me to say, but I think that's the best one.
I do want to
absolutely.
I do want to commend the Coyotes for the bold choice of using the purple, because not a lot. I mean, I can't think of a team off the top of my head besides the Kings that wear purple. Like,
yep. One more question. Apart from the Red Wings, what was the worst jersey that you guys saw? I'll go first. I mean, I thought that the New York Islanders could have done a lot more. They could have gone with the Gorton's Fishermen, but they just went with pretty much their same, home jersey.
At least the Red Wings have like gray, silver, whatever it is on their jersey now. That Islanders jersey is hilarious. It's the exact same thing.
It's the exact same.
Yeah.
Well, and the same can be said. I was not impressed with the Blackhawks jersey. It's a cool jersey, but they've worn them before. It's been done, and it was awfully redundant to me. So in that light, I was not a fan of the Blackhawks jersey.
As a Detroit fan, I am proud to say that the worst one was Toronto. Like the Maple Leaf, like, and even the Maple Leafs had different, like, kind of like Detroit, they had different options that they could have gone with for a reverse retro, and they went with something that I'm pretty sure I could have just bought at Walmart for $59.95. Like, it was not pretty. It could have been done much better. The Maple Leafs have the worst reverse retro.
Don't think the Red Wings are finally better than the Maple Leafs at. All right. So we'll wrap it up here, boys. Before we go, just going to preview Monday's The Grind Line column. Pat is leading this one, and we'll be sharing it out on Monday. We are sharing our breakout performers for the Red Wings, our predictions for the 2020-21 season. So which player do we think is going to exceed expectations and, take Hockeytown by storm? So with that, thank you all for joining today, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you.